This is NBA Now live here on Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr. Give me a follow on Twitter at Chase_Senior. We move forward with this Q&A mailbag from Jack Mello. What do the Celtics need to do to be serious contenders? I'm baffled, Jack Mello, as to what has happened to the Boston Celtics. We're talking about a team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. The question that somebody asked me a couple days ago, the Celtics' run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, was that a product of them being in the bubble, with having to deal with less pressure, with no fan bases? I don't know. They were really good, and I like the core of the team. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're two budding superstars. I think what they need a big man, and a dynamic one. Not just a guy who's going to clog up the paint, but a guy who can stretch the floor. Let's see, maybe they address that through free agency or the draft. Next question coming in from Terry Two Tones. Say that 10 times fast. Celtics should have traded for a big. Yeah, I look at the package that the Orlando Magic got for Nikola Vucevic, and I ask myself, why didn't the Celtics put together assets to trade for a guy like Vooch when they really could have and really could have used him? I think Vooch would have been the perfect fit for that team. I think Vooch has been one of the best centers in the league over some time, and he's only making $22 million through 2022-23. The Celtics could have used their $28.7 million trade exception to absorb his salary. Now, that doesn't go away after this year. They can use that in future years, but I thought they should have used it on a guy like Nikola Vucevic. Here's what I want you to do next. Name a surprise team that will miss the playoffs. Could it be the Golden State Warriors if they continue to be and play inconsistent? Possibly so, but get into the comments and predict it for me. A surprise team that will miss the playoffs. I think the Warriors are on the brink of that. Next question coming in from Jeff Stamps. What player could the Celtics target in free agency to help their big man woes? If they want to go traditional center, Andre Drummond is going to be a free agent. If they want to trade for a player, Myles Turner could be on the block if the Indiana Pacers decide to rebuild. So I think the Celtics would look at centers like that on the market. The problem with Andre Drummond, I think the Celtics could be really dangerous if they were to go out and at the trade deadline pick up a player like Nikola Vucevic. Andre Drummond is more of a traditional center who really just commands the paint and clogs things up down there. I'd like to see them spread the floor a little bit with a big man. Another question coming in from Philip. What do you think Kemba's trade value for the offseason is? Who can the Celtics get for him? If you would have asked me this 2 years ago, Kemba Walker had a lot of trade value. Now, not so much, because teams across the league understand this isn't the same player anymore. You could look at the numbers and point to the 18 points per game and say Kemba Walker is still producing at a really good level. But when you watch him, he just is lacking a little bit of burst, a little bit of athleticism, and I think that knee injury, which happened last year around the All-Star break, is a big reason for that, and that's caused Kemba Walker's game to just go down a touch, but that also affects his trade value as well. So if you want to stay up to date with all of the news, sports, politics, community happenings in your area specifically. I don't care where you live, all across the country. It could even be Boston as well. Head to chatsports.com/newsbreak. So those of you living in the Boston area, if you go to chatsports.com/newsbreak or chatsports.com/CelticsNB and you download the Newsbreak app on your phones, you can plug in and be plugged in to everything happening hyper-locally in your area. So if you live in the city of Boston, you can type in the city of Boston or the zip code, and any local news that's happening, you will be alerted and kept up to date. But if you live on the outskirts, in maybe a township or a town or a borough or something like that, you can also type in your zip code, and anything that's happening in your respective neighborhood, you will be alerted as to what is going on as well. So that's chatsports.com/CelticsNB, and download the Newsbreak app on your phone. Be sure to give us a follow also, our Celtics Today by Chat Sports page on the Newsbreak app. Give us a follow. We're trying to get to 100 followers, and we have a lot of room to make up in that regard. We're only at 38, so smash that follow button. Give us a like there on the Newsbreak app, Celtics Today by Chat Sports, and do that right now. Another question coming in from Jackson Fulton 27. What are three realistic trades for Karl-Anthony Towns? I think Cat is going to stay with the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially if they land a top 3 pick. Now, you might be saying, it's time to rebuild. It's time to pull the plug. A lot has happened to Cat personally. He lost his mom due to COVID. His dad got COVID, I think. KAT also got COVID as well. So a lot has happened to him with the Minnesota Timberwolves. If I'm running that franchise, I'm holding on to him because I think that's the best opportunity to rebuild. So I think the Timberwolves are going to hold on to him. I don't see them trading him. So hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Chase_Senior. I currently have 3,643 followers. We're trying to get that follower count up. Same too with Sam Brown, the producer who's making this whole show operate here today as I'm riding solo for the first time. Give him a follow on Twitter at SamBrownCS. He currently has 1,034 followers. We were able to get it north of 1,000 back a couple of weeks ago. Let's keep that number moving. Let's get Sam Brown some more followers as well. Mohammed Tour, can we see the current playoff seedings right now, please? Yes, let's run through it real quick. Let's get to the Eastern Conference. So Nets, Sixers, Bucks, Hornets, Heat. That is the top 5 in the Eastern Conference playoff standings. Knicks, Hawks, Celtics, Pacers, and Bulls rounds out the top 10 teams in the Eastern Conference. And if you've been living under a rock, 10 teams make the playoffs in both conferences this year. As for the Western Conference playoff standings, Jazz still in there at first place. Suns, Clippers, Lakers, and Nuggets. That is the top 5 in the West. And the 6 through 10 goes as so. Trailblazers, Mavericks, Spurs, Grizzlies, and Warriors. So there you go. You ask us to answer one of your questions, and we could pop up the Western Conference standings just like that, all thanks to Sam Brown, the producer. Nola Pelicans fan chiming in with another question as we round this out. Should the Pelicans trade Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams in the offseason? Steven Adams' contract is brutal. So too is Eric Bledsoe's. I'm not sure what team saw in Eric Bledsoe. Steven Adams is a guy who has been a really valuable and really strong force down low for OKC and New Orleans. I didn't understand why the Pelicans brought him in. A lot of experience, a lot of bulk down there in the front court. But if you're trying to grow young, go young and grow with your young players, didn't see why Steven Adams came in there. I think they could try to trade both of those guys, but the question is, what are you going to get back?